So today is Memorial Day weekend, and tomorrow is Memorial Day when we celebrate those who have made the sacrifice of their lives for our nation and for our ideals. Abraham Lincoln famously said of American democracy that we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. In America, every viewpoint is allowed expression and is considered. Every citizen has a voice and a vote. But in order for a democracy to be healthy, we have to have an informed citizenry. People who have access to accurate information and are knowledgeable about public affairs, issues, and policies. Winston Churchill famously said about democracy that the best argument against it is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. There was a time not too long ago when we could count on the fact that we were getting the same information. When Edward R. Murrow told us that Germany had invaded England, we believed him. We trusted him. When Walter Cronkite broke down in tears to tell us that JFK had been shot in Dallas, we trusted the news that we were being given. And when Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein investigated the Watergate scandal and our very president, we trusted them to get us to the truth. But today we live in what many are calling the post-truth culture, a post-truth society, when false and misleading information is moving through the internet like wildfire. Information that is not adequately fact-checked or evaluated critically. We live at a time when people live in their own echo chambers, when they only see content that is already aligned with their existing belief system. A time when people are increasingly distrustful of the institutions traditionally regarded as authoritative sources of accurate information. Can we have a healthy democracy in a post-truth culture, in a post-truth society, where there are fewer and fewer trustworthy institutions, experts, or reliable sources of information? When echo chambers and filter bubbles on social media prevent people from hearing alternative and diverse viewpoints? When cable news stations exploit and exacerbate the divisions in our culture and blur the lines between news and entertainment? Is it possible to have a healthy democracy when objective, evidence-based facts are increasingly dismissed or manipulated by moneyed interests? When rational dialogue and debate take a back seat to emotional appeals, personal attacks, and sensationalism? Can we have a healthy democracy when fear and mistrust and anxiety are being sowed at every turn, and it seems as if wisdom and compassion and empathy for the other has left the building? Sometimes it feels like T.S. Eliot was right. His apocalyptic vision is coming true right here, live and in color, in the words that he wrote in his poem, The Second Coming. He writes, turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falconer cannot hear, or the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world, the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Sometimes it feels like that's American culture today. Maybe that's why the phrase, the spirit of truth, just jumped off the page as I was revisiting these texts. There is a lot of passionate intensity in the Pentecost story, and we often reflect upon that. But And that's important because there is some wild stuff going on. There's this rush of violent wind filling an entire house. There are tongues of fire resting upon people. There's a bewildered crowd, people who are amazed and astonished, and all these different languages being spoken. And people are acting in such a way that it seems like they are drunk. That is part of the Pentecost story. And even in the Gospel of John text today, we see a lot of emotion lurking beneath the surface. Jesus is about to die. The disciples are beginning to wonder, what is life going to be like for us without our mentor, without our teacher? And then there's some emotion lurking in the soul of Jesus as well. Philip, are you kidding me? You're still asking me this question. Have you not been paying attention? Have you not seen? And why are you looking to me to do for you what I've been teaching you to do for yourself? There's some emotion hanging out here in this text. But in the midst of all of that, Jesus invites them to receive and open themselves to the Spirit of truth, which God will give them, and which Jesus describes as a presence abiding with them and in them, serving as their advocate, teaching them and reminding them of everything that Jesus has taught them. A power capable of bringing unity out of division, order out of chaos, simplicity out of complexity. A peaceful force capable of freeing us from the tyranny of irrational fear and unnecessary suffering. Do you believe in the Spirit of truth? Do you believe that you have access to truth with a capital T? And do you believe that in the midst of all the smaller truths that are true some of the time, maybe even most of the time, there is something that is true all the time, always, eternally, universally true, now and always? Do you believe that? Do you believe that when all is said and done, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess this truth? Do you believe that? I remember years ago, my mentor shared with me his near-death experience. He had come to what seemed like the end of his life. His heart had stopped beating, and he was being given a glimpse of the life that is to come. He had that veil parted. And this is what he said. He said, "Mark, it was pure love. Pure love. That's the ultimate meaning. That's the ultimate power in the universe. Love. Love." And then when it was not his time to die and he returned back into his life, he remembered thinking how simple and how hard. How simple, how hard to believe in the Spirit of truth, in the Spirit of truth. Philip is basically asking Jesus, what is truth? And Jesus says, have I been with you all this time, Philip, and you still can't see the truth? Whoever has seen me and heard me and watched me and followed me will see the truth. How can you say, show us the truth? What is not yet clear? Sometimes I think God is saying that to us. What is not clear about what I've said for you? The story goes, in a humble village, Jesus walked among the people, and his presence brought hope and transformation to all who encountered him. And one day there was this curious and skeptical traveler who arrived in the village. He had heard tales about Jesus, and he wanted to learn from him, to see whether the truth that was revealed in him was in fact true. And he was intrigued enough to ask for an audience with Jesus. And so Jesus accepted the request, and they sat down together under an oak tree, and they began to talk. And as they were talking, this gentle breeze was carrying their words. And the traveler asked Jesus many questions, his voice tinged with doubt. He said, "Master, many claim to possess the truth, but how can one be certain? How can one discern the truth amidst a world filled with different opinions and conflicting beliefs? And Jesus smiled. His eyes reflecting a profound serenity, speaking with a voice that resonated deep within the traveler's soul. He said, "Truth, my friend, is not a concept to be debated or sought after in the world's cacophony. Truth is not confined to ideologies or doctrines, but resides within everyone, waiting to be recognized, waiting to be embraced. It's the eternal flame that burns in every heart, connecting us to the divine source of all creation." As Jesus spoke, a sense of awe and peace washed over the traveler, and he felt an undeniable resonance with his words, as if they were unlocking a dormant knowledge deep within him. And then Jesus reached out and gently touched the traveler's heart, and in that touch, a flood of understanding and wisdom came forth, and a profound realization that the truth that he was seeking resided within him all along, waiting to be acknowledged, waiting to be lived, and tears began to well up in his eyes as he embraced the profound simplicity of Jesus' teaching. And he realized that in the end, it was not about acquiring more knowledge or winning debates. It was about opening his heart and aligning his life with the eternal and universal truth. And from that day forward, that traveler's life was transformed as he carried the truth within him and as love radiated from his presence to all he encountered. His life became a testament to the divine wisdom that he had embraced. And the village, too, began to change. Inspired by this traveler's transformations and the teachings of Jesus, the people began to recognize the truth within themselves, and love and compassion began to flourish, breaking down the divisions and the fear that had gripped them. And the story of Jesus and the traveler spread far and wide, becoming a reminder that the truth is not a possession to be grasped, but a living presence that dwells within everyone, a divine spark waiting to be recognized and shared. In a world that seems captivated and at times captured by lies and illusions, Jesus is saying to each of us, to you and to me, to all of us, to anyone who will listen, I have given you an advocate to be with you forever, the Spirit of truth. You know the Spirit of truth because it abides in you. It is in you. And the Spirit will teach you everything and will remind you of everything that I have taught you. Now, you may not have had a near-death experience. I've never had a near-death experience like my mentor, but I have had a number of experiences where the veil parted. And I saw more clearly than I ever have. Maybe you've had moments like that. And what I saw in those moments did not solve all the problems of the world, didn't even solve all my problems, but put it all into a larger frame, a wider, deeper perspective. And all I can say is, in those moments, love met me there and didn't let me get stuck there. Love will meet us and will change us if we open ourselves to its teaching. Mahatma Gandhi said of the truth that the truth is by nature self-evident and simply requires us to remove the cobwebs of ignorance that surround it so that it can shine clear. So let us, as people of faith, maybe even particularly this weekend, shed the cobwebs of lies and illusions and ignorance and just wipe it clean. All the craziness, all the cacophony, all the noise, all that is not true. And wipe that web of ignorance away and open ourselves to the eternal truth, capable of leading us through the chaos, the cacophony, and the confusion that is our world today. And my prayer for me, for you, for us, is that we receive the presence that does teach us everything and does remind us of everything that Jesus has taught us. Let us receive a power that will bring unity out of division, order out of chaos, simplicity out of complete confusion. And let us trust that this presence is peaceful. It's always peaceful. And it alone has the power to liberate us from the tyranny of irrational fear that is being stoked everywhere we turn. It has the power to liberate us from the tyranny of irrational fear, which leads again and again, as it always does, to unnecessary suffering. May we be open to receive the Spirit of truth.